Hi everyone, welcome to this 5-part video series where you'll see trauma-informed group work in action using Therapeutic Spiral Model, TSM, led by the method's founder Dr. Kate Hudgins and Dr. Steven Durost. Whether you are already studying this method or just curious about new methods for trauma work, these videos offer fantastic overview. You'll get valuable insights and teaching points from both Dr. Kate and Dr. Steven. This is perfect resource for those who are new to action methods or anyone looking to understand how this model can create a safe space for trauma healing. It was taped during the annual gathering of Therapeutic Spiral International. In this video, you'll see a warm-up, including Therapeutic Spiral Model safety structures, sound and movement exercise, 3 types of strengths, moving sculptures, and working on raising spontaneity in the group, creating the connection with each other. Let's dive in.
Thank you again for joining us here on our YouTube. What we did was we created an international gathering, people who had studied TSM and gone through our different levels of trauma training, followed by some new people coming in. It was just the most miraculous experience. It was like, we didn't have any drinkers going on in our group, and everybody was still just like high from the love, from the connection. These were people who had been in groups together on Zoom during COVID, had never met each other. They came from 12 different countries, and we all came together to just be the love that TSM is. And we had a wonderful, wonderful 5 days, and this trauma is the beginning of it. All the trainers stand up, and you each take a sound and a movement to introduce yourselves. Again, we just did the words. But now let's use our body. 1, 2, 3. Woo! All right.
Sound and movement is done to help get the body warmed up to be in action during the drama. It's a different kind of stance than sometimes when people are looking at engaging with others. So we want to get our whole body involved, especially because when trauma is involved, we want the releasing of it has to come from the body. So we need the body engaged, not the brain. We want both the left side and the right side working together, and we want the body to be supporting the work. If you want to get more information about Therapeutic Spiral Psychodrama Model, and you could pick up this book on Amazon that Kate and I wrote, is the most current book on the process. It goes into great detail about everything that you saw, all the steps clearly put out, as well as the theory behind what we did. Experiential therapy from trauma to post-traumatic growth, the Therapeutic Spiral Model Psychodrama.
And now, Vedran, stand up and just do your sound and movement. We'll just go around. Your name, where you're from, and a sound and movement.
My name is Vedran, I'm from Croatia, and my sound and movement is like
Everybody.
Hi, my name is Jasmine and I'm from India, and my sound and movement is
are called our safety structures. We have 6 safety structures. A lot of the jargon, for those of you who are new, is jargon, made up jargon. Okay? So you'll understand by the end of the workshop the jargon, because you'll see it in action. So what we're doing now are sociometric structures. Sociometry is the building of group connections. so that we come together as a group before we do our drama, which will be a simultaneous protagonist drama. And Stephen and I will demonstrate that as we have around the world. That's what TSM evolved into, is a simultaneous protagonist drama where everybody is the protagonist, even though we have one chosen protagonist. And so you just get to kind of feel it through. Stephen, what would you like to say as the assistant leader? So we're co-trainers here, but we're usually, we trade off assistant leading.
And so one of the first safety structure we've already gone through is the observing ego, and that we are placing those around the room as the beginning of a container. And this container is one of compassionate observers, of cognitive observers, a place where we can role reverse into if a protagonist should get dysregulated, or if you just kind of need a little extra boost and need a little extra self-compassion, you can connect in with your observer, see what message they're sending you. And it's also kind of a way of concretizing what is known in DBT as the mindfulness. It's concretizing mindfulness. That's another way of looking at it, but also uniquely used within the TSM model.
Second safety structure.
So our second safety structure is to now create another circle of safety, of containment, and to do that, again, visually. Psychodrama is all about making the invisible visible so that we can then work with it. And we want to bring in our strengths, and we're going to concretize those and make them visible with these scarves. So there are many ways of doing this. You're going to see numbers of ways of doing this throughout the weekend, I'm sure. But today we're going to do it in small groups. One thing to note about tissues is they're around, but we won't offer them to you. Because oftentimes when people are offered tissues, the message is stop. Wipe up those tears. We want you to have your emotions. We want you to have your tears. And we want you to do with them what you want to do with them. So if you ask, we will give. But if you're waiting for someone to give them to you,
you're giving you a Kleenex just because you had a little snot coming down.
You're going to have to ask for what you need, want, and desire. So there are three categories of strengths. There are the strengths that come from within. Those are our intrapersonal, our interpersonal. And so that's represented here for the moment. We have a category of strengths which are interpersonal strengths. Those are strengths that come either are another person that we have connections with, and so we can name that person, or they are strengths that show up when we are in relationship with someone. So things like empathy, trust, communication. Communication might be a strength, unless you're talking to yourself. The strength needs another being to communicate. So that's going to be represented here. And then the third category is transpersonal strengths, strengths that come from something greater than ourselves, which might be God or Gaia or some spiritual being. It could also be nature, the ocean, the sea, the sun, creativity, music, imagination. That's going to be represented by this. So if you want to think about it, this is me strengths, we strengths, and these strengths. I said that to my group after like 6 or 8 months of doing this, and they said, why didn't you say that initially? That would have made so much more sense. What we'd like you to do is put yourself into one of those three groups with an area of strengths, the category of strengths that you feel connected to in this moment. If you feel connected to an inner strength, an interpersonal strength, or a transpersonal strength.
And the reason we bring in these strengths is because when trauma survivors come in, they're often bereft of strengths. And you ask them what strengths you have, I have none. And we'll say, well, you're here. That's one. But before we go into the trauma, before we, get into the victim, perpetrator, abandoning authority roles, we want to build up a healthy psychological state so that people don't get tripped up into their trauma and go down into the trauma spiral. That's the whole purpose for this exercise.
Because the trauma survival will go to the trauma.
If you follow your trauma protagonist, they will take you down to the trauma immediately. So this is like, we don't follow the protagonist, we support the protagonist.
And we must go to the trauma in our strengths.
All right.
So let's go to our strengths.
And one of the trainers, please get in each one of the...
And once you're in those groups, we'll let you know what to do next.
The scarf to dress yourself up with.
The strength that you feel connected to.
Yes, we have an abundance of stars.
The dance of strengths. The dance of strengths.
I'd like to talk about the three strengths as part of our trauma survivors' internal role atom, like a psychodramatic social atom that looks at your social relationships. We have a role atom that looks at the internal parts. And so the strengths are necessary to build up before you go into a trauma drama. And so there's three kinds. And what you saw in the group was that we broke the group up into three different groups, and they each play one of the strengths. So the first one is intrapsychic, strengths I have in myself. And people say, oh, I have nothing. I said, well, you're pretty determined because you got here. So, at least let's own that. So it's this is a me strength. And then the second is a we strength. So an interpersonal connection, an interpersonal strength, like being able to trust somebody, being able to communicate well, having good images in your head of ancestors who were supportive of you or now have become that in that stage. And then the third one is thee. So it's me, we, thee. And thee is about transpersonal strengths. And that doesn't mean religion. It can, but it's not a narrow definition like a transpersonal strength has to be religion. It could be art. It could be nature. It could be dogs. It could be anything that's bigger than yourself. So we had the people go off into three small groups and create the moving sculptures of that. So it's not just like, oh, our group cognitively has blah, 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 blah. But again, and continuing to involve the body, like Stephen said, embodying the strengths. And that's what you saw there.
So also that the interpersonal strength can actually be another person. So it can be a strength that comes in relationship to another person or actually be another person in the person's life.
Okay, now that you're in your groups, go ahead and share with your groups why you're there first. Quickly. And then we want you to create a moving sculpture to represent your group of strengths.
And you have a trainer in each group to help you know what a moving sculpture looks like, if you don't. So you got 10 minutes at the most. Time to come back to the big circle.
Start the circle with the scarves.
This is how we make our circle of safety.
Just name the scarf. When you're putting it down, just name the strength that you're putting down.
Flexibility, spontaneity,
Awareness of boundaries.
groundedness.
Okay, thank you. And in our next group, the interpersonal strengths.
You, we, I, we,
Us together, us to visit.
us,
You,
me,
us,
you,
together.
us, together,
Us together.
together, presence, us, presence, us together,
You.
TSM
Community.
me,
Us together.
I, we,
Us together.
All right.
Now, if you put down those scarves, name those strengths.
Linda Ciatola. Charisma.
And then we'll meet you this afternoon.
connection, resonance,
Goodness.
Knowledge.
the TSM community,
And our transpersonal strengths group.
Shema Israel, Adonai,
I love you, I love you, all is well, all is well. Father Mayor,
Unity.
You are loved and you are carried. God loves me.
And at my scarf, this is ocean. As far as that goes, any body is salt water.
Including the sea.
Including the sea.
And I bring my community of elephants, another representative of the fact that we've created a worldwide community. So the reason we work it around and we don't have a stage is because this is your brain, okay? Where we set our dramas are inside the brain, right? So there may be a room inside the brain, there may be an image in the brain, but once you step in here, you're stepping inside the group brain. So I invite everybody to step in and just wander around. Make eye contact. Feel what's going on in your right brain, your images, your left brain, what the hell's going on here. So just take a moment and hold, and let yourself see what is post-traumatic growth for you. We're not aiming to go deeply into the trauma and re-traumatize people. We're to go touch the trauma, come back up, and always build post-traumatic growth. So how about just a sound and movement right now, post-traumatic growth, inside the brain. Where do you hope to get to? Body the words. Body the words. Body the words. All right. So step back outside the circle and go stand behind your chair, because this is the observing place.